3 red buttons. I was told to push buttons, so I pushed buttons. There were 3 buttons, red ones. I sat in a room and I pushed 3 red buttons. Not at the same time. I pushed each one individually at seemingly random intervals. Each red button looked like the kind of red button that a foolish cartoon cat or dog is told not to push, because if they push the button, something awful and disastrous could happen. Do not push, a sign near or on the button usually says. But that character always pushes the button. He pushes the button because he's foolish. I push the buttons because I did what I was told. For work, for money. I did what I was told. Each morning before work, when I woke up, I'd find vitamins on the nightstand with a small glass of orange juice. 3 vitamins. 3 buttons, 3 vitamins. At 5:15, I'd wake up and take them. There was always a note that said, swallow these next to them. So I did. I'd swallow the vitamins and suck down the juice and feel the life and feel the health and feel okay. Feeling okay was good and important. An alarm woke me up and I would immediately hit the snooze. The snooze allotted me 9 minutes of extra sleep, and then it sounded again. It was tuned to a news radio station. The reporter's name was Randolph Howard. Randolph's voice was deep. It was a good radio voice. He talked about death and disaster and misery and hate and fear and guns and death and misery and pain and hate and death. I almost never listened to what he said, though. He was only my alarm. He might as well have been a buzz or a ring or a chirp or a honking horn or a comical slide whistle or something like that. But I suppose it was better that he was informational and educational. It's good to be informed. After I woke up, I'd run 3 miles on a treadmill. It took me roughly 25 minutes to run 3 miles. That's not a bad pace. It's not too slow and it's not too fast. Running is good because running made me feel like a human. I'd feel the blood and breath and muscles and legs, and I'd feel like a thing with a thing beating in his chest that's pushing things into his veins and things into his brain. Those things are the things that I needed to feel the life inside of me. Coffee was next. Black. Strong. I was down to 2 cups a day. It used to be 6, but I got it to 2. 2 for me. 2 to make me feel good. 6 was too much. My hands were shaking and I was irritable. I would snap at my coworkers and snap at myself and snap at my life. But I got down to 2 coffees and I felt much better. Work was numbing, pointless. I didn't even know what I did. I pushed buttons, 3 buttons. 3 red buttons and something happened. I was told I worked in tech. I believe that meant the internet. I was told it was important because people use the internet on the toilet. So I mattered. I made a difference. I made the toilet more fun for people. I didn't know how, but I did. I pushed buttons and something happened far away from me. For all I knew, the buttons killed babies. For all I knew, the buttons fed babies. For all I knew, the buttons were just buttons. I got a break every day, 15 minutes. They gave me coffee. Coffee number 2, black, weak. I also got a donut. I love donuts. Those 15 minutes were always the best part of my day because of the donuts. Sometimes I dipped the donuts, sometimes I didn't. Every fall season, right before Thanksgiving, I'd get a pumpkin-flavored donut. A special treat for a special employee is what they would say when they handed me the donut. Pumpkin donuts were meant to make employees like me feel like they mattered. It didn't work. I did not matter. In no way did I make a difference. But the donuts were good. And when they were pumpkin donuts, they were very good. Things changed when I met my friend Johnny. Johnny had just started at my job and he talked a lot. It's nice to know a friend who talks a lot because I don't talk a lot. I mostly sit and stare and push my buttons and think about coffee and pumpkin donuts. I wish I drank more coffee, but too much coffee makes me irritable. Soon after Johnny started, he was pushing his buttons near my buttons and asked me a question. What would you do if you had a ton of money? He asked. I paused and turned to Johnny and responded, I would leave this job. Johnny smiled and winked his eye and leaned in close and lowered his voice. What if I told you I had a way for both of us to get a ton of money? What would you do? I would ask you how, I said. What if I told you that it involved doing things that are... He turned and peered over his shoulder suspiciously even though his back was facing a wall. Not quite legal. I would ask you what kind of things, I said. What if I said that I had a friend who works at a bank and knew a way to get a guy into that bank and out of that bank without anybody knowing? I would ask how, I said. What if I said, I'd tell you if you promised me that you would help me do this thing and promised me that you wouldn't screw it up and wouldn't rat me out? I'd say, I promise. Johnny's friend was also named Johnny. I found this confusing because Johnny's friend Johnny acted quite a bit like Johnny. He talked a lot and seemed relaxed, and he wasn't afraid of things and didn't seem irritable. I wonder how much coffee Johnny drank. Johnny's friend Johnny had a machine. I asked where he got this machine, but he wouldn't tell me. He just said, "Science." That was all he said. Science. Science was where he got the machine. The machine was like the kind that mad scientists use in movies to turn into gross creatures. But this machine didn't turn people into gross creatures. It did something different. It did something that I don't entirely understand, but I'll do my best to explain by telling you what happened when I climbed inside of it. Johnny's friend Johnny, not my friend Johnny, handed me an earpiece and told me to put it in my ear so he and Johnny could speak with me. It's the kind of earpiece that I imagine newsmen like Randolph Howard wear when they're on location in dangerous areas during war times or in bad weather standing near car crashes and flashing police lights. Johnny, friend Johnny, opened the door and I climbed into the machine and he closed the door. I saw nothing. It was dark. It was black. Pitch black. I heard some noises from outside the machine. It sounded like a whirring and a bleep and a bloop and other sounds that I can't fully describe. I then heard Johnny, though I couldn't tell which Johnny it was, say, "When you get in, you'll know what to do." I then heard a thunk, and I saw a flash, and that was it. Glowing wires surrounded me, and cables and numbers and letters and sounds were whooshing by me at incredible speeds. Time seemed to move both fast and slow simultaneously. I felt free from the pull of, well, anything. And it's hard to explain, but I felt like I was free from any kind of gravitational influence, though I'm not sure if I was. It's all very vague, and I'm sorry, but it's the best I can do to explain what it was like. Once I got in, I barely had time to look around before I heard Johnny, not sure which Johnny, say, "Do you see them?" And I did, straight ahead, on a console just like the one I use at work. 3 red buttons. I smiled and replied, "I see them." "Then you know what to do," he said. I slowly approached the buttons and quickly pressed each one. I heard a sound like a giant engine shutting down and another, though slightly different, thunk. I then heard one of the Johnnies frantically exclaimed, "Got it!" and heard the other one say, "Then let's get out of here!" Soon I heard one of them say to me, "Thanks, pal, I owe you one," which was then followed by the sound of a microphone hitting the ground, and feedback, and then static, and then nothing. I'm pretty sure I knew which Johnny said that last part. It took me a few minutes to realize what had happened and what was going to happen. I was sad at first, but remembered why I was here and what my job was. And so I turned my attention to the 3 buttons, those 3 red buttons. I sit in a room and I push buttons. I am no longer irritable. I am happy. I am okay. Feeling okay is good and important. I am perfect and smiling. I am not a machine. I am not a cartoon cat or dog. I matter. I make a difference. I am a good employee. I deserve donuts.